We ready to start fighting?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to On the Record, the Fat Records fan podcast. We're going album by album, side by side, and roughly chronologically through the whole damn catalog. As always, I am one of your hosts, Alex, joined by Ben and Josh. How's it going, guys?
Greetings.
Hey, pals.
Today we're going to be talking about Swingin' Utters, 5 Lessons Learned. And before we get started, let's talk a little bit about our personal experiences with this record. We'll start with Josh. You ever?
I have
None?
no prior experience other than I think one of the songs was on a comp or something, and I kind of remember it from that. But that's the one single track I had familiarity with.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, same.
For me personally, this I think was the only Swingin' Utters record that I ever bought. So I listened to it a good amount. It was cool to come back to it. And we will get into our thoughts on it in just a second. But first, we're going to go through the liner notes. 5 Lessons Learned was released on June 23rd, 1998. As for the band lineup, are you ready for the list? You're not ready. You're not. There's Johnny Bonnell on vocals, Darius Koski on guitar, vocals, accordion, violin, and bass on 5 Lessons Learned, The Stooge, and Pictures Perfect. Max Huber on guitar, vocals, and on bass on I Need Feedback. He also did some percussion. John Marr was based on most tracks. He was the bassist for 8 out of the 15 songs. I don't know what the deal was with the bass on this one. No one wanted to play it. I'm not sure. And then Greg McKenty on drums and percussion. Now,
is it possible John Maurer quit like halfway through recording?
No idea. I could not find any real information on the what was going on when they were recording it. But my God, here comes the additional musicians. We got Spike Slauson on backing vocals, on Pictures Perfect and I Need Feedback. Fat Mike played bass on Unpopular Again. Howie Pyro played bass on Untitled 21. Lloyd Tripp was the upright bass on Fruitless Fortunes. Chris Shiflett was the lead guitar on I Need Feedback and Untitled 21. Max Butler was the mandolin. Seth Lorenzi on the organ, the Hammond and the Vox organ, also the electric piano. Tom Greiser was on saxophone, baritone. David Murataki was on saxophone, tenor. Ryan Green himself was on the tambourine. Van Hughes was trombone, and Morty Oken on trumpet. That was a lot.
Did we not comment on how Morty Oken just sounds like the most made-up name? The last time we talked about them or somebody else. I feel like Morty Oken has popped up before.
Yeah, I feel
in
like
liner notes.
I think he might have played with Brackett. Would be.
Oh, okay.
The album was recorded at Motor Studios as usual. Engineered and mixed by Ryan Green and Adam Kramer. Produced by Ryan Green, Swingin' Utters, and Fat Mike. Just a couple of notes about some of the songs from this record that you may have heard elsewhere. Certainly my first experience listening to one of these songs was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 soundtrack.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah,
I was trying to remember what the heck
yeah.
I heard it from.
And that's the title track, 5 Lessons Learned. And then This Bastard's Life was in Rock Band 3, which I wouldn't know, but
A very weird pick for a Rock Band game.
yeah, it's a pretty strange pick.
Did they ask like Fat Mike for a song for Rock Band, and that's what it gave them?
Hell if I know. I wish I could understand, or I wish I knew like some of the details of how that song in particular ended up there. It's not even one of the standouts.
No.
All right. Let's get into the album. Side 1, 5 Lessons Learned. I think we're starting with a bang. I Really like the intro on the song. It's excellent. It's punchy and powerful. I really like Johnny's vocals here. He's like trading off with the lead guitar, and it's really good. Um, and then I also love how this song flows really naturally into the following track. Ben, what are your thoughts on this one?
I thought this was a really good opening song. It sounded really Bad Religion to me. Like, um, I think it's the way that he's doing the trading off with guitar that you were mentioning. I think it's something that like Bad Religion does. With Greg and some of the guitars at times. There's also something in there that I can't quite put my finger on, but like I definitely get like a, it's something about the guitar leads. It's something about like the way that they're. It feels like it could be off a record. Like at the tail end of their first epitaph run. Like some of those later records, like maybe Against the Grain. It sounds like something off of. And I think that it does lead into another really good song with Tell Me Lies. I thought that this was a shockingly good start to this record.
Yeah.
I have to echo Ben's statement. It's a really solid opener. My first thought was that I liked this song more than anything on the last record by this band we had covered. And I agree. I think if we want to get into the second track, I think it's the 1-2 punch of these two songs is a really awesome way to start the record.
Completely agreed. Before we jump to Tell Me Lies, let's just talk quickly about the lyrics on this one, which, as you might imagine, it is about learning lessons, but never getting ahead due to some kind of bad luck. He says, I know I must not think bad thoughts. I'm always beaten to the punch. I'm holding aces high and low, and in between, I'm trying to break my fall. And the reason I pulled that part in particular is the part where he mentions holding aces high and low was interesting to me because I always thought that ace was the high card, but I guess originally it was the low card and eventually it became the high card. I just thought that was I don't know what the significance of that was, but
I think in some games it can also serve as both.
I was gonna say in
high
blackjack,
and low.
in blackjack you can use it as a 1 or an 11, can't you?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's right.
Card games are a total blind spot, and we'll circle back to this later in the record.
Blackjack's the only one I understand because it's just counting to 21.
Okay. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on to Tell Me Lies, which I think is one of the absolute best tracks on this record. It's incredibly catchy. The vocal melody on this one really gets stuck in my head. And the guitar leads are great. Yeah. How do you guys feel about it?
I think it's really catchy. I mean, it's good, not great. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this band, but like I said, it was a pretty impressive 1-2 punch to kind of kick things off. So I dug it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Chorus is pretty catchy. Nothing too deep coming from here.
Yeah, I mean the song itself it seems to be about putting in the work of playing music, but it never really pays off. It's sort of the same type of theme as Strung Out's Crossroads, because he says, I'm at a junction, but I just don't know which path. I'm proud of all the work I've done, but it never seems to last. It's not for money, it's for love, and it might just break my back. It's sort of like they're definitely kind of weighing, like, do I go all in on this or not? Is this really going to pay off? All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to A Promise to Distinction. So I think this one might have been on one of the comps, one of the fat comps.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
So I think this is, I guess, their first real foray into what I guess you might consider like like the cowpunk or something. As it's like the first time that they're really doing the sort of I guess you call it kind of like a country tinge, just because of that mandolin. I think it's a mandolin
Yeah.
that they're using
There's
here.
like a vaguely flogging Molly thing going on here, kind of. I don't really care for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I said it sounded way too Dropkick Murphys for me, but
I think it's much better
I
than
also couldn't think of the name of a mandolin, so I referred to it as that little Irish guitar in my notes. I don't like the stupid little Irish guitar.
it will forever be known as Irish guitar now. Um, yeah, I actually really like this song. It's not like one of my favorites on the record, but I thought it's a cool track. I would say that I can totally see where you're coming from, calling out Floggy Molly and Dropkick Murphys, but I think this is far better than anything that either of those bands does. Um, One, because I just think it's really catchy, but I like the mandolin in there. It's just like a pop punk song that happens to use the mandolin to me. Um, it's I've also really liked the lyrics on this one. At one point he says, "I ate the day with bad manners and spit out the rind."
Oof.
I flew from home when I was just 21, young enough to be the father of someone. Um, just like some really good lines that he's gotten here. But yeah, it's really just about growing up and working for other people. Um, but the only thing I can't really figure out is where he keeps saying "you're not the one." I guess I don't know if it just means he's like never gonna rise above or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's mom and dad are telling him like, you know,
The hard truths.
aim your sights a little lower.
It's important to be honest with your kids.
Yeah, don't take up the Irish guitar.
You're not special.
It's not gonna take you anywhere. All right, let's talk about track 4, The Stooge. Josh, what are your thoughts on this one?
This one's not bad. It's fine. I think the backing vocals are probably one of my favorite parts of the song, and it's I think one thing this band does really really well.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one I really like it because this is probably a good spot for me to just like cut in and talk about how I just love the sound of the guitars that Swingin' Utters are using, like just overall. And this is a good example of what I really really like. Just the lead that they throw in at certain points, it's like got like that like higher whining pitch. I guess it's a really specific tone that works really well for me personally. It's like almost like a hallmark of this band's like sound. Um, and though he is not in this band right now, I feel like he joins later, Jack Dalrymple, from One Man Army.
Oh, is he not on this one? I didn't realize that.
No, he doesn't come in until later, I think that Swingin' Utters must have been a band that he grew up really loving or something, because that the style of the guitars, um, you really hear that come through, especially on Dead to Me. Like he really takes the sound that you hear and
Yeah, I could see that. They like beef it up, but I can
yeah.
see that too.
And I love that sound as well. So but yeah, I mean, I also kind of like thought it was like, oh, was he in this band? And he does eventually end up in the band, but not at this point. Ben, any thoughts on this song?
So the first time I listened to this, I thought it was one of the best songs on the record. That is not how I felt upon subsequent listens. I also felt like there was like a bass line or two in there that kind of reminded me of Porno and Snuff Films by the Lawrence Arms. I couldn't tell you
Yeah.
exactly which bass lines, but like parts of it were definitely tickling that part of my brain.
How appropriate that I seem to be wearing this Lawrence Arms shirt right now.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. I'd have to listen to it again. I didn't really pick up on that, but sure.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is the song's just about looking back on the choices you've made in life and regretting a lot of it. But you kind of fool yourself into thinking that the path you took was something bigger and more meaningful than it actually was. Um, which is why you're a stooge. All right, let's move on to Pictures Perfect. Um, I really like the intro on this song a lot. And the guitars in general are really good on this track. It's got like kind of like more of like a soul to it, just the way that he's playing, and I really like that about it. Um, but this wasn't like one of my real like standout songs. Ben, what did you think?
Yeah, I was not absolutely really all that in love with the song. I kind of my note was just it was a whatever 90s punk song. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, I did. I on the other hand did not like the intro at all, and was like, man, you could have just chopped an easy 30 seconds off that track. But I mean, I also wasn't crazy about the song in general, so I guess it's neither here nor there.
Um,
I'm trying, swinging others. I'm trying.
hey, it's all right. You can't like everything. Um, I just happen to, I guess, really like this record. Um, all right, now let's talk about The Bastard's Life, which was apparently good enough to end up on Rock Band 3.
This is the weirdest fucking song, dude.
It is a weird song, right?
I hate this song, but like I think I hate this song so much that I kind of love it.
Really?
It's very strange. It sounds like a bad sick. Like we talk about Bracket, how like they could have had this career writing like TV show theme songs, and this sounds like a terrible like single dad working in a brewery sitcom, like called like Bottled Up, and it's like a guy with 3 kids, and the mom died in a skiing accident. And he's got to support the family at this microbrewery, and the show sucks, and the intro song sucks, and this song sucks. But I kind of love this song.
Wow. I love that. Everything everything that you just laid out.
I mean, just
We're
it's so strange.
we're going to series. It's that's pretty good.
Oh, the Moog part is really good though. I really genuinely love the Moog part in the song. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is an odd song for sure, and I can see where you're coming from. Um, I was it's that drum and piano combo that, or like
Yep.
it's the it's I guess I don't- it's the organ that he's playing. So I guess he like it's the Hammond or the Vox.
Yeah,
I
probably like
don't
a
I don't know.
B3 or something. Yeah.
Um, I don't really know the difference. But I like that combo. But what it reminds me of, it is such like a 90s music thing. Like it reminds me of
Yeah.
something very specific. Um, that I cannot really remember who it sounds like, but it sounds like something that you heard around this time period on like, the pop charts.
Oh, absolutely.
Some other rock band. I don't know. But I don't know if it was maybe like something that Blur was doing, maybe. I don't know. But
I mean, you could probably say there's like a faint Ben Folds 5y kind of vibe to it a little bit.
maybe a little
I mean,
bit.
it's got that kind of like a jaunty, kind of happy, upbeat vibe to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It definitely rings familiar of like somebody.
Yeah. Ben, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I too liked the organ or Moog or whatever the fuck it was. And I thought this was a pretty good song. Better than the last song, at least.
Yeah. It's an odd one. I tend to be all right with it. I think it's kind of cool. It changes things up. Uh, as they often do. I think it's a real strength to this record is how much variety there is here. Much like Snuff, they do a lot of different things.
I agree.
Whether
Yeah.
it all really
Yeah.
hangs together super well, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the last song on side 1, As You Start Leaving. I thought the style and like the cadence of the guitar playing on this one was really good. And if it's the vocal melody really well.
Yeah, that main riff is really great.
Yeah. It feels like it has the the sound that I most associate with this band when it comes to like the guitar solos and stuff. Yeah, it's a solid track.
Yeah, I'd agree. Good, not great. Really catchy. Really, really good guitar parts. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with.
Yeah.
I think this was probably my favorite song on the record. If not my favorite, my second favorite. I think it's really good. It kind of almost gives off like a jangle pop vibe to me, like jangle pop punk or something. I don't know. I liked it. It was pretty good.
It's a good track. I thought not a bad way to close out this side. And as far as what the song is about, it to me seems to be more about like the mood or the atmosphere of nights out with your friends. And like, the feelings that are hitting you as you're about to head home after a night of out like, running around. It's one of the few sort of like more positive songs on this record. Most of these songs are really like not that. But yeah, pretty good song. Now, before we continue, let's do a little Q&A. Let's you guys got any hard lessons that you've had to learn?
Yeah. I have probably spent conservative estimate at least $300 over the life of this little fucking bastard right here on new cell phone cords and new laptop chargers. He had quite the taste for like the Apple MacBook chargers, which was a very expensive taste, a caviar taste, if you will.
It's those organic casings they
His
use.
favorite flavor.
I eventually bought like reticulated tubing from like fucking Home Depot and like cut it so that like I could like slip it over the cord so he could chew on like the plastic outer
That's
tubing shell
incredible.
all he wanted to without like biting through the cord. Yeah, those were very expensive things to replace. So like everything was charging like up high and away from him at all times. Like I couldn't just have my phone next to my bed because I'd wake up with the phone charger chewed in half in the morning.
Holy shit.
God.
So very hard lesson learned. He has lost the taste for it over the years. My current cell phone charger is like a cord one, so he doesn't like those like cord, like fabric cord fiber.
Oh yeah.
That I got that one because I think my other phone charger is at your apartment now, Alex. I think I forgot that the last time I was in town.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, I had to emergency buy that while I was flying back home because my phone was gonna die, and I was like, "Where the hell is my charger?" So
you know what? I think I was even like thinking about that recently. I was like, "Whose is this? This isn't mine."
yeah, oh, have fun, enjoy it.
Another hard lesson learned: always make sure you have your chargers before you leave.
Yeah,
That's a rough one.
Do a quick once over before you leave anywhere.
You gotta. Josh, you got any hard lessons?
I would say do your due diligence if you are buying any sort of like a used car. Know what you're getting yourself into, especially if it's like someone else's project previously and they didn't get to finish certain things. You may run into weird wiring snafus later or electrical issues that you can't figure out. Like maybe your taillights just turn off sometimes and they just turn back on sometimes and you don't know why. You don't want to have to try to figure that out. It sucks. So
is this
if you are
Did somebody sell you a lemon, or is it like a friend that like?
No, it's. I mean, it was all in good intentions, but literally, it was a guy. The guy I bought the car from was in the middle of doing. Like, it was essentially his project car, and so like he was doing all the work, the way I would, learning, how to do it and doing it yourself through trial and error. So there's little like snafu, like gremlin-y type things here and there that I have to try and figure out as I go through ownership, but it's little things like that that'll save you a lot of hair pulling down the road of like, why is this random thing happening to my car?
I was gonna say, as general advice on that, I mean, Carfax wouldn't help you in that sort of situation, but if you're buying a new car, use the Carfax, or have a mechanic look at the car before.
Yeah, if you're going through any sort of dealership, do your due diligence. Just know what you're getting yourself into. Save you a lot of headaches, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Buying used cars, even if you're buying it from a lot, I mean, you got to pay attention. I guess I don't really have anything super specific. I'll just say, in general, it took me a couple of, or a good amount of time, I guess, to learn not to try to like be friends with everybody you meet. It's just been some weird situations that I've gotten myself into over the years. Back in college, the most specific I'll get with this is there's a guy. He's a very nice person. When he was like an older guy. He was in one of my college classes at art school. Really well intentioned. He needed a lot of help with like learning certain things. He just couldn't quite pick up how to use certain programs. He seemed friendly. I offered to help him, and then like the more I kind of got to know him, the more I kind of just start to see like he shared more about his life with me, which was you hear some interesting things, but he starts to talk about, like I've wasted a lot of time in my life because I was addicted to a lot of drugs, and I've been trying to claw my way back up, and those are all like, and there's nothing wrong with any of that, and that's not where it went bad. Where it kind of went bad was just like when he started to like talk about anytime somebody starts to talk about how they just want to be free of drama. It's never true.
Yeah.
It's never true. It's never true. But
it follows you for a reason.
The only people that say that are people that are surrounded by drama.
Oh my God. Yeah. But it just seemed like but then he started like, calling me and like asking me, it's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to come to class today. So can you like take notes for me and stuff like that? And
Jesus,
I did it very briefly. And then I was like, you know what? You're on your own. But, I mean, I'll just never forget the time that he showed up to class and he's like, yeah, man, I missed class because my girlfriend, her stupid son, stole my car and went to do a drug deal, and look at this shit. And he shows me the bullet holes in the sides of his car. I was like, dude, this is not good.
Wow.
That sounds like the stepson in the Bracket song.
Yeah. For sure.
Dude, what a trip that is.
And then like, the more
look at this shit, man.
Yeah, well then like the longer this went on and the more I heard from him say these things, I started to think to myself, I was like, are you actually just like doing this yourself and you're scapegoating the kid? I don't know. I have no idea. But all I'll say is the way that this sort of ends is it was, I haven't been on Facebook in like I guess a decade almost. Close to it. But one of the last things I ever saw on Facebook before I quit it forever was, I guess I was somehow still friends with him on Facebook. And this is like, I hadn't, messaged him or talked to him in years at this point. But I just one day I was browsing Facebook and I see him commenting on the article about his arrest.
Returning to
Hell
the scene
yeah.
of crime, huh?
It was just like in all caps, like, this is bullshit. I was like, all right.
This guy rules. That
Oh,
guy
man.
is awesome.
Man, I don't wish ill on
Lesson
him,
learned. Keep
but
drama out of your life.
yeah, wow, man, that was just he was he was generally very nice to me, but like, man, he was something else. But yeah, that's the end of my story. And now we're gonna move on to side 2, and we're gonna start talking about what I think this is probably my favorite song on this record. I Need Feedback. Um, this Did this remind either of you of the Queers?
Yes,
I
I
had
wrote down queers and
Yeah.
groovy ghoulies were the two things I picked up on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I had a bit of Screeching Weasel, and like it also just gives off, I think, like early '80s Orange County punk vibes as well.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
could see that for sure.
But I like this song a lot too.
Yeah. It's like one of the best queer songs they never wrote.
Yeah.
It's just super fun. The hand claps are like another thing that like it works so perfectly here, and it's very queers. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a really really great pop punk song in general. The guitar solo is awesome. It's just like a really fun jam in general. And then it's what were you gonna say, Ben?
So I had a question about the lyrics. They're a San Francisco band, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was weird that they were talking about going to the Trocadero to see another show, because I associate Trocadero with the Philly venue. But there was a Trocadero in San Francisco, but like it says it was like a dance club predominantly, and like the shows that they talk about it having, the actually notable shows are like industrial shows and like fetish club stuff that they had there, and like disco parties and things like that. So, I mean, I assume that they could just as easily have had punk shows as well, but I guess that wasn't a notable part of its history.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into that. That's interesting. But yeah, maybe they just had some like one-off shows or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Must have been. I mean, it sounds like they had some pretty wild events. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, punk shows wouldn't be out of the line with
Right.
based on what they are talking about in there.
Yeah. I guess in general, like when you see the title of the song, I immediately thought it was like, oh, does he needs like, uh, you know, feedback as in someone giving you advice on how to improve something, but he's just talking about feedback in terms of the sound coming through the speakers.
He just wants to rock, man.
Yeah, man, it's all he lives for.
He just wants to rock.
Any other thoughts on I Need Feedback?
No.
All right, let's talk about Good People. I really like this song. Again, that those guitar leads are really great. The way that it kind of rings out over the rhythm section is so good. And again, like I'm really feeling like this was like something that Jack Dalrymple is pulling directly from later on in Dead to Me. It reminds me so much of some of the early Dead to Me stuff. How did you feel about it, Josh?
It's fine. I think their repeating riff is the star of the show as far as the song goes. The riff that kind of carries the whole song through.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know, something about it just like it works really well. And I think you're right with the Dead to Me comparison too, as far as Jack pulling later.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
I felt like this song was kind of one that just left no real impression on me.
Okay. I think the lyrics on this one were kind of, I couldn't quite. They're a little obtuse. To me, it seems like it's about a woman who's not making good choices with the men that she's with, which sounds really generic when you describe it, but like the lyrics are kind of interesting. Um, just the section that I pulled here was he says, "Cliche of an old man's dreams, the storybook disease. In a rush to get out and leave, Mister Good for Nothing, Miss Disease in need of a heartache, beg now and then for a sin to appease." Um, sounds like, uh, yeah, just someone trying to find happiness and keeps making the wrong choices or something. I don't know.
So the first and third verse to me seem to be about like scam artists, right? Like
It
the
mentions
man
like
in the corner gives you a
pocket
fool's gold
watch.
watch,
Yeah.
getting your fortune told and giving away your fortune to do so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it seems like he's talking about somebody that is like very gullible
Mm-hmm.
and is like just getting duped by people they think are good people, but are like really just kind
Right.
of out to scam them.
Yeah.
But those other like the second and fourth verse, like you know, I don't understand how that connects to the first and third verse
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Through me too. All right. Let's go to As Sure as I'm Down. Ben, any thoughts on this one?
I think this is the best song on the record.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, I really like it was between this and As You Start Leaving. I don't know, something about the riffs, everything together. I think this song just really works.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Actually, this one for some reason this song really caught me off guard.
Yeah, I really like there's like a very rancid style solo that gets thrown in there that's really cool.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's just like a really fast, good track. And I like that you can really hear the bass coming through on it. Which you don't always get that on this record. But it's yeah, it's just a really fun song. All right. Let's move on to Untitled 21. This is a really like catchy track. Some more hand claps coming back in, which I think work here. Um, and I like the ending to this song because it's just kind of like it just kind of hits you with like a couple more guitar riffs and then just ends, which is kind of cool. It just seems like a little flourish. They're just like, yeah, why not?
I like when bands do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like the hand claps and stuff. I think that this band they do incorporate elements like that really well. I think it's not one of my favorites on the record, but I dig it. It was okay.
Thought it sounded like a Swingin' Utter song. I will admit that like from now until about the end, like everything just starts to blend together for me.
Yeah, I would say the same.
What you
The
really
the
think that
record.
the next song blends in with the rest of the record? Because this is a bizarre song.
Well, I think the next record just stunk, but the next song just stinks. But yeah,
Okay, so well, that's an intro. So unpopular again. This is I did. This is like a Mad Caddy song.
I, I didn't expect this at all, let alone like this far into the record.
Yeah, this is like what the Mad Caddies are doing on Duck and Cover. It's got this very like ragtime ska going on, and it's strange. That
They
like
sound like a band on a riverboat casino.
yeah. I don't hate this song though. I'm kind of all right with it. Like it doesn't
I
bother
mean, I'll
me.
take an unexpected ska song where I can get it. I have to admit.
It's yeah, it's the kind of ska that I'm kind of like it's like okay, I can kind of be okay with this. Um it doesn't like strike me as hokey or anything like that, or corny or whatever. Like a lot of ska punk can. Um, it's sort of like I think it's because it's more of like a very specific that like New Orleans ragtime kind of vibe it's got going on. Um, it's really well executed. Um, but I mean, it is definitely on the lower end of my songs on this record. Um, and the song itself is, you know, kind of straightforward. It's about the fleeting popularity of being a band, and everybody shows up early on, and then you sort of start to fall off, and people don't care anymore. And you kind of get to see which bands kind of continue on and make it a career, and maybe you don't. You just kind of hang out. Um, any other thoughts on Unpopular again?
Nope.
I'm thoughtless.
It's an unpopular song. All right. New Day Rising. Great Who's Could Do record.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping it would have been really funny if they covered the song from that record, which like more of like one of their kind of like offbeat like weird songs too, like
yeah.
So it would have really been interesting to see that here. I was kind of disappointed.
So I am once again in a position where I don't mind the accordion here. I think the accordion's pretty. It's used pretty well, just like that one song on the last record. I know you guys aren't so into it, but how did you feel?
Yeah, I mean it's a catchy riff and stuff, but yeah, there's not a lot on this one for me.
To be honest, like the accordion isn't the worst thing they do on this record. I think it's the ska song, but
I think it's the weird fucking Friday night ABC TV show theme song, but at the same time, I'm also kind of in love with it. Fucking weirdo song.
That's so interesting how you have this like true love-hate relationship with the song.
It's so bizarre that I can't help but like it, but I also like it just grinds my gears at the same time.
I love it when that happens. Yeah. Anyway, this song, yeah, I think the accordion it's very I would say it's very tastefully added in there. Like the accordion can be such an obnoxious instrument, especially when you try to incorporate it into this kind of music. It just doesn't quite fit usually, but they find a way to work it in there in a way that it feels like it's pushed far enough into the background that I think it kind of works. Yeah, it's a decent song. Let's move on to Two Jack Shitty, which I really like the guitar lead at the beginning, and then when it comes back later in the song with that solo, I'm like even more into that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a really fun song. It's paced really well. It doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome or anything like that.
What'd you think, Ben?
I thought that this was a pretty good song. But at the same time, the songs are all starting to blend together for me at this point in the record. Like it is, they should have cut at least 3 songs out, if not more. I mean, another song that could be cut out is gonna follow this, but yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm totally in agreement there. But this was the song, the other song that I was talking about earlier that I think is referencing card games. I guess I don't know. Two Jack Shitty. I don't know what that means. Does that?
It could be some sort of a liquor reference too. I mean, it sounds like some sort of a 2 shots of Jack. Two Jack Shitty.
Yeah,
kind of like New Jack City.
Going back to Blackjack. I mean, 2 Jacks is probably
that would be good because that's 2 10s. Because you would split them.
I guess if you don't want to hit if you've got 2 jacks though, right? Like because
Yeah, you would
probabilistically
want
you're
to
gonna
if you can
bust.
play, if you have the money, you would want to split, because then you play 2 hands simultaneously.
Betting advice from on the record.
Yeah, from someone who has never gambled more than a slot machine in his life.
I played craps briefly, and I used one of the
Oh, yeah, I've done
automatic.
that.
I did one of the automatic roulette wheels too once.
I think I played a slot machine that one time that you, me, and Eric went to the casino in Indiana, Ben.
Oh hell yeah!
I think that was the only time that I ever gambled. Because I don't play card games. I never grew up playing card games. I am
You don't even play
completely
euchre?
no. I never learned
I
how to
have
play
no
euchre.
idea how to play euchre.
Never learned how
Oh
to play it.
man, we should live stream ourselves playing euchre.
You even wrote that in the doc like a while
Yeah,
back.
I noticed that one game, and I started getting nervous because I was like, I don't know how to fucking play euchre.
I don't know either.
Like, I didn't know that was going to be a requirement when I joined this
Yeah.
podcast.
It's never learned. It's just not like a thing. I mean,
So we're going to play gin rummy this episode.
Yeah. Best I could ever hope for is beginner's luck, because I don't know how to play any of these games. All right, let's move on to the final song, and thank God this is the last song.
Yeah, I
because
hate this song.
man, I'm just not feeling it at all. And I'll just say that anytime a song starts the way that this song starts, I'm out. I do not like the way the song starts at all. It gets better once it starts to pick up, but I'm already kind of out. But like, man, I'm reaching for the skip button the second that I hear a fucking violin and somebody crying over it. Like, I'm out. No, thank you.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
But the lyrics are actually interesting though. To me, it seems like about like the fantasy of feeling like you're above all the politics of our culture, but like we're often just as hypocritical. Like in the end, like he has this part where he says, fascists in their many guises, anarchists in their fantasizing. It seems sometimes they're sailing in the same boat. Politicians mesmerizing throngs of automated souls at some similar psychos screwing on the scope. That's
a mouthful.
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting lyrics though. I liked the lyrics. I just do not like the song.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we don't have any more thoughts on that.
Not a one.
All right. Final thoughts. We'll start with Ben.
I think that this is, in the next episode, I think I might like the EP we're talking about a little more than this one, but this was a pretty good Swingin' Utters record. I liked it. I think I liked it more. I liked it more than I disliked it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I liked this more than the last one we covered, and I would say I liked it more than I expected to. But there's a lot I didn't care for either.
Gotta say, Josh, you let me down a little bit just because you seemed like you were ready to make fun of it.
I felt that. I mean, I don't know. I get tired of just being like, I don't know. It just sucks. I feel like if I don't have something clever to bash about it, I'll just be like, it's fine. What it is, what it is. I'll never go back to this record. I can tell you that for sure.
Okay, well, there's an honest opinion. Okay, I like that. I like this record. I know I'm in the minority again. This is one of my. I think this is somehow one of my favorites from this season. Still, I like a lot of these songs. I will come back to this record. I think there's a lot to like here for me personally. And I think this is one where it really does feel like the songwriting is like much improved over the last record.
Yeah.
And I like all the additions of different instruments and the variety that it gives it. I think, to me, Snuff kind of does this thing where they're just like, oh, we'll just kind of throw it all in there and just really mess around. And I think that this is much better than that even. Yeah, there's something about it that really works for me. And I think it really is the fact that I think that even though there is all that other stuff, the guitars are still sort of like the driving element that really stand out. And they never really lose sight of that. And like none of the songs ever, to me, they all feel like they all have their own identity for the most part. So maybe like one or two that feel kind of similar, but for the most part, every song feels pretty different. And I really like that about it. I'm not gonna sit here and think like it's up there with Double Platinum or Twisted by Design, but this is one of my favorites from this season of records. All right. Any more thoughts before we move on?
No.
Let's talk about some rival records. So this time around we have two records that I don't know if they totally fit in with Swingin' Utters necessarily. I think the thing that kind of connects these three records is they're all very like guitar driven. But neither one of the ones that we're going to talk about have any of like the additional instrumentation and stuff like that. But it would have been good to have like maybe found something that had that, but instead I chose to bring Armchair Martian, the self-titled record, because I had not listened to this record in forever. I had listened to it like so long ago. I really like this band. I think they're completely underrated, but I think my thought process on this one, I should have listened to it before we chose it, just because I thought Armchair Martian, as they go further in, they have more of like that country influence that Swingin' Utters pull on a little bit, but none of that is really here yet at the very beginning of Armchair Martian. Instead, you get a record that, as their first album, was produced by Bill Stevenson and Stephen Egerton from Descendants and All, and you get a record that sounds very much like Descendants and All, mostly All.
Yeah.
Really because John Snodgrass and Chad Price, who, in my opinion, was the best All vocalist, they sound very similar, and they were definitely like friends. And they were, Chad ends up playing in Armchair Martian, and then he and John go on to form Drag the River, which is definitely more like a folk country type of outfit. But at least on this record, it's Armchair Martian is basically just playing something that sounds a lot like All.
That I vehemently disagree with that assessment of what they sound like. I felt like they kind of just sounded like alt rock. Like, I think that they have a lot more in common with the next record we're going to talk about than they do with Descendants or All.
Yeah, I got a very similar vibe to the other rival record as well.
Really, you didn't think that this felt like All, like Chad Price era All?
No.
It wasn't as, when I think of All, I tend to think noodly stuff. Like there wasn't a lot of that. It was a lot more straightforward than I would picture for an All record.
It's also a little too slow to be like an All record. Like
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's not slow in the way that all records usually are slow. Yeah, I don't know. I
Hmm.
heard something sounded completely different to me when I listened to it.
Well, I mean, maybe I haven't. To be honest, I haven't listened to all in a long time. It's the guitars, man. They were just really like it felt like it was produced by these guys. Like I'm listening to it, and I'm like, this
Yeah, it's
really
got that
feels
like blasting room sound to it.
yeah. And maybe I'm associating it with something else, but and it
Well,
really probably being influenced again by the vocals.
so does Chad Price sing on the entire thing, or is he only on one of the songs?
Chad Price is not on this record. He doesn't come in to this band for a couple more releases.
So there's a couple songs where it definitely sounds like Chad Price. I will grant you that. Like there was at a certain point I was like, has this been Chad Price the entire time while I was listening? But like I think that musically it just does
I
not sound
I
much
think
like all to me.
that had to have been what was really skewing my thoughts towards all. Um, is because I think that just the approach that John Snodgrass is taking with the vocals sounds a lot like Chad Price.
I can see that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of this record, Ben?
You know, in my head, I thought it was going to sound more like Bad Astronaut. Do they do a split at some point?
They do.
Like in my head, those bands are connected. So yeah,
They are
they did a
connected.
split.
They did do a split,
Um,
and the other thing is that Bad Astronaut covers one of the songs on this record. They cover
okay,
Jessica Suicide.
okay.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I feel like if you're a fan of Swingin' Utters, you might not like this record. But I really like the opener, and I thought Xenophobic Car was really cool too. And Blast as well. And then I kind of thought it loses steam as it goes on.
Yeah, I agree. Although I do think Jessica Suicide is a really good song. I think my main issue ends up being with the pacing, and a lot of the songs are just kind of the same tempo.
Yeah.
And it needed a couple more slow songs, or maybe something faster in general. But I got I don't like it's not a very long record, but it kind of wore me down a little bit because it's like a wall of guitar. Like there's a lot happening.
Yeah, it's a noisy record.
And so I think there's like a lot of overdubbing because it credits as being a 3-piece, but there's not only one guitar. There's a lot of like layering of other like a second guitar.
Yeah.
What did you think of this record, Josh?
It kind of had like a Game Face Shades Apart vibe. I was actually kind of surprised to look it up and not see like a Rev logo because it just feels like a band that like Rev around this time probably would have been putting stuff out by. Um, Nothing really stuck out for me. I had a issue like you said with the tempos. Like there was just nothing really jumped out too much at me. It's a fine record. I wouldn't turn it off. It was in the background. I wouldn't be mad it was on, but I don't know that I would seek anything out, based on this experience with it.
Yeah. I will say the band does this isn't like this isn't what this band ends up sounding like in the end. They do
Sure.
change. And I think maybe a better choice would have been the a record that they do a couple years later called Hang on Ted, which I love. That is, I think, definitely their best record. But it doesn't really sound that much like this from what I can remember anyway. It's been a while since I've even listened to that. So yeah, maybe not the best choice as far as like something that fits in with Swingin' Utters, that's for sure. But I learned a lesson. Yeah, I do think that this record does have some really cool songs. That song Blast kept making me think. I was like, man, it sounds a lot like Less Than Jake, because it's like the other vocalist jumps in there on 2 of these tracks, and I was like, damn, it's like sounding to me like the vocals are sounding very Less Than Jake. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty good first record. That feels like there's maybe a little bit a little bit too much guitar, but there's nothing wrong with that really. All right. Now we're going to talk about another San Francisco band, one of my favorites, Samiam. You Are Freaking Me Out. Um, Josh, have you been into this record before?
It's funny. Like I remember you and I talking about Sam I Am a lot over the years, and I got into them, and I don't know what specific record, but it was later, definitely like later in their career. And I remember trying the early stuff back at in our 20s or whatever, and it never really did anything for me. But I feel like this time around, I enjoyed it a lot more.
I feel like you and I talked about Clumsy specifically, which was the record before.
Yeah. They also had, I think I got into them pretty heavy around the time they had that comeback record too. I don't remember what year, 2005 or something, maybe something like that.
They had one.
Maybe a little later than that, right?
2008, something. Yeah, it was definitely like before
You're
2010,
thinking of
I think.
Whatever's Got You Down, which I think
Yes, that's a great album.
2006, that's such a weird record because when it first came out, like the production was so funky and weird.
Yeah, it was a strange. I remember being a strange, kind of a strange record.
So much so that like most like the fans, I think, were even just like really vocal about like, you guys need to fix this. There's something wrong with the production on this record. It doesn't sound right. And they eventually did. They eventually remastered it.
Oh, really?
And I thought, like, I think a lot of people were just like, oh, okay, this is what it was supposed to sound like. I don't know what happened.
That's interesting. I'll have to go back and compare those now.
Yeah, it got remastered, I think, in like 2013 or 2014, maybe.
That's really interesting.
When it got re-released, but
it got Sonic the Hedgehog. The internet, demanded it, and it got fixed.
Yeah. But this record too had like a weird situation. So Sam I Am, they did Clumsy on that was the only like major label release they did. It was through Atlantic. And then they recorded this record in 96, and Atlantic basically just told them, we are not releasing this, and they dropped them.
Jesus.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why?
So much of this record sounds like it could be huge.
I think this is probably their most successful record in terms of like what people know them for. But it's and for me it's close to being the best. I like the follow up more, but yeah, it's really interesting. They had to they got the rights back to the record after Atlantic refused to release it and dropped them, and they took it to Burning Heart, who released it in the rest of the world, but not in the U.S. In the U.S., they went with somebody called Ignition Records, who is no longer around. I couldn't really find much information about this label or who they were, but Ignition's gone. This record is now owned by No Idea. But yeah, it's a strange road that they went down with this one. But I think this record has a lot of like their best material. There's a lot of really great songs here.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
What did you think of it, Ben?
So, interestingly, I'm not sure if it's a Sam I Am record I've listened to a bunch before this. But like every Sam I Am record, it's good. I guess the reason I'm not sure I've listened to it much is that none of the songs really stood out to me. Like on all the other records, there's at least like one or two songs that like I go back to over and over again, and I don't think this one had any like that. But there were a bunch of really good songs on it. I like the song "She Found You" a lot.
Yeah, I had it on my list too.
Factory,
Yeah, Factory.
Ordinary Life, Good Enough, and Charity. I thought were all really good songs.
Yeah, Charity. I really like. Every time I think of Charity, I always think of the line where he says, "Like I believe you, gas can guy," because it makes me think. There's a story that I feel like either Justin told me the story, or maybe it was even just one of the guys in Black Tie Bombers. Might have even just been like Josh Malott. There's a story about how whoever this was that told me a story said that they encountered this guy who had a gas can, and he was asking for money, and his story was that he's a bus driver and he ran out of gas and he was taking kids on a field trip.
Good Lord.
And they were like, so you left a bus full of children on the side of the highway so that you could come ask for money.
God bless the man who invented permission slips.
And so every time I
Jeez.
listen to that song and I hear him say, like, I believe you, gas can guy, I immediately think of that story. My God.
Holy shit, dude.
So funny. But yeah, that's a really good song. That is actually like got like an actual like, you know, far more serious bent to it than I might let you believe.
Oh God, is that good?
Yeah. I like love so much of this record. I think the first track, Full On, is fantastic. She Found You, Factory, Ordinary Life, Good Enough, My Convenience. Yeah, I just, you know, I think the only thing that I don't really love is the Beatles track cover at the end, Cry Baby Cry. I just, you know, just didn't need it. But outside of that, it's a really good record. And you know, I think a lot of the earlier Samiam material, it's like over time Samiam got better at writing catchier songs. They
Yeah.
were a lot more like I guess I don't know the way I guess just like brooding in some ways. Like the guitars were just like it's kind of ominous in a lot of ways. But it's like over time they kind of went for some lighter melodies to balance all that out. And I think this is where they really took that step. And that's why it's so mystifying why Atlantic did not want to release this record. I have no
That
idea
makes
why.
zero sense.
There are so many really catchy songs.
And a record like this would have cost them next to nothing back then. I mean, it's not like they were going to spend a ton of money on like advertising. You'd throw some posters out to some skate shops and some record stores and quietly, you know, release this on the shelves, and it would have sold you a few good 1,000 units easily.
Yeah. But like I could really have seen something like like Factory or Good Enough having been like really solid singles that might have even
Absolutely.
So, I think that alt rock bubble from the early '90s was bursting at around the time this came out.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
There's a spin article, 1996, the year the alternative bubble burst, and other ones talking about how, like, if the first half, that's also from Spin. If the first half of the '90s were the boom period, the second half was when it burst. So they may have just not wanted to put out any. AV Club has in 1996, alternative rock died a messy, forgettable death. So
so it would have been like a fire sale. They would have just been getting rid of everybody back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that Bad Religion survived, staying on a major label.
Right.
Well, kind of. I mean, like it's not like they put out very good records.
No. Right. Well, they took a real dip at that period. So I don't know if that was maybe the label's fault even.
Stranger Than Fiction, though.
Oh man, yeah.
Well, some of those early major records are phenomenal. Gray Race is one of my favorites.
Gray Race is really good.
Gray Race and Stranger in Fiction, but then that was Gray Race was 96, I believe. So it's like if they snuck it in under the wire, and then after that, somebody must have come in and be like, we need you to sound more like, do something more like The Offspring.
It's a great performance of them doing the Gray Race on Conan O'Brien's show. It's on YouTube somewhere.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think there's them doing the song A Walk as well from Conan.
That might be what I'm thinking of, but it's very, very good.
Cool.
Butch is being very obnoxious right now. He wants in, then he wants out. Wants up, then he wants down.
Demanding animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I can imagine like Atlantic Records was like, we already have a Bad Religion. We don't need anything that sounds even close to that. It's like, yeah, can you imagine if they're just like, how about doing some ska, Samiam?
Right. Have you considered sounding like Real Big Fish?
Yeah. But yeah, fantastic record. I think that's where we're gonna leave it. So it's gonna do it for the episode. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, any corrections on anything we might have gotten wrong, please email us at ontherecord@gmail.com so we can set the record straight in a future episode. If you have really anything to comment on in general, just send us a message. Leave a message on the YouTube video. I see that a couple of people have done that recently on some of our videos. Not really anything to pull, but call us out. Be like, hey, what's your problem? Or I don't know.
Or tell your friends.
What?
We have disappointingly low subscriber numbers, according to one of you.
Yeah, right.
So tell your friends to subscribe.
Criminally, I believe was the word used. Criminally low. They weren't like mocking they weren't like teasing us.
Yeah.
They were just, we are underappreciated as this person seems to think, which, hey, I agree.
I'm not going to argue with that. So also that particular video had a surprising number of views on YouTube, like not the most that we've had on YouTube, but like pretty high number for I mean, it's only like 50, but like that's a pretty high number for like a week or two on YouTube.
For sure. For us,
for us, the YouTube doesn't get nearly as many views as the other sources seem to usually.
Strung Out's a popular band, man. Like Strung Out really, they bring in the views.
Lagwagon's been our big view getter lately, or so far. Like the first episode was so like that's obviously going to have a lot, but like the other ones like Trash and Haas have like lots of downloads and views and stuff as well. So
cool.
We know what you guys like.
Yeah, I mean, Lagwagon and Strung Out are definitely two of the biggest bands that have ever been on this label, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be back next week with an EP episode to close out the season, and we're going to be talking about Consume's Breakfast at Papa's. Is it Papa or is it Papa? I don't know. They're British. Who knows? Swingin' Utters. Swingin' Utters, The Sounds of Wrong. And finally, the Ataris. Look Forward to Failure. How's that for a curveball? Thanks for listening.